So this was the chorus of the Rush parody I wrote in 2002. The square root of time is infinity. The square root of time is infinity.
Oh no! Snakes don't have arms. I feel so bad for snakes because I can't pick things up.
Let's organize this list. Now let's play PlayStation. Now let's play the Karn. Now, let's go.
This is my groove.
Or keep still, I'm talking to people. I always have to walk around in a circle like an irritating 4-year-old.
Hey, welcome to Snakes Without Arms. This is Nick Karn of one-man band Physical Illusion and former album reviewer for now-defunct GeoCities site Music Junkies Anonymous. In this video, I'll be ranking the studio albums of Canadian prog rock power trio Rush, from my least favorite all the way to my favorite, only my opinion, of course. I got into them in the very late 90s while first discovering prog rock, and while I found Geddy Lee's 9-year-old elf-style shrieking to be very jarring at first. My first album was 2012. I was eventually won over by their fun, hyperactive musicianship, catchy melodies, and the thoughtful lyrics mostly penned by late and great drumming legend Neil Peart. There's 19 albums to cover, and I'm not going to be including feedback from 2004 since I struggled to figure out where to place it, given that it's an EP of covers. I guess it would probably be somewhere near the bottom of my list in the 15 to 17 range. So anyway, I'm going to get to it. My number 19 is Roll the Bones from 1991. I just find this to be a dreary midlife crisis album with dull heavenly synths, depressing lyrics, and concept dealing with fate and chance, blah blah blah. So it does start off really good with the first 3 songs. And Dream Lies another one of the many songs driven by a police-style guitar line from Alex Lifeson that evokes driving down a desert highway and has "We are young, wandering the face of the earth, wondering what our dreams might be worth, learning that we're only immortal for a limited time." And Bravado has a beautiful flow to it, and the title track is a guilty pleasure with its hilariously silly rap section. Jack, relax, get busy with the facts. Almanacs, polyester slacks, it's a parallax, you dig? But, I don't really like the second half of this at all. Like the Big Wheel is my possible least favorite Rush song ever with that terrible playing for time and don't wanna wait for heaven adult contemporary chorus, hair size, really lifeless, depressing feel. You bet your life's just a "we didn't start the fire" rip off in places. And do those first 3 songs and some good playing in the instrumental, Where's My Thing? Part 4 of the Gangster Boats trilogy, ha ha ha. It's not quite bad. I'll give it 2.5 stars, but yeah, easily my least favorite. Number 18 is Hold Your Fire from 1987. This is another album where the melodies are just way too adult popish and the synths are overbearing sometimes. Although it does have some fun moments like the chorus of Prime Mover, the wailing guitar line of Open Secrets that goes dan 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 dan, and the creative chord changes and energy of the opening Force 10, which has the hilariously dorky "cool and remote like dancing girls." And it also has some of Geddy Lee's best bass playing and some of Neil's most mature lyrics, which are especially good on Time Stands Still. It's a song about growing older, and it's got an Amy Mann cameo. Then you had dumb stuff like Second Nature with a simplistic electric piano riff and lines like "Let's talk about this sensibly, we're not insensitive," and Lock and Key with the bombastic "I don't want to face the killer instinct, face it in you or me." And Tai Shan is a silly tour guide to China song, which Geddy Lee called "an error, we should have known better." It's an okay album with a mix of good and bad stuff. My number 17 is Counterparts from 1993. On this one, they move into a heavier sound influenced by the grunge movement, and that heavier style would last for the rest of their career. Well, I'm a big alternative rock and grunge fan, but I actually hated this album at first and called it my least favorite. I think I was just mad at certain critics for putting down Power Windows, which I was super into when first hearing it, while praising this album. Especially Martin Popoff of the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal, who gave that album a 4 while giving this a 7. Well, there are a few songs I've always liked quite a bit, like The opener, Animate, has one of their strongest choruses of their late period. And the last two songs, Cold Fire and Everyday Glory, end the album on a solid note, especially the former with its lyrics about relationship conflicts. But now I also like the instrumental Leave That Thing Alone more than I used to, with that nagging organ in the background. And I can also appreciate the AC/DC style riff of Between Sun and Moon. And there are some songs I still don't like that much, like Stick It Out with the ugly Don't Swallow the Poison chorus, Nobody's Hero with the commentary on the AIDS crisis, and The Speed of Love, which still has it boring adult pop elements. But it's another decent album that could come close to being a little bit higher on my list. I think the albums after this one did the heavier sound a bit more convincingly. My number 16 is Vapor Trails from 2002. The original way over loud version of this album might be a couple spots lower on this list, but the 2013 remix definitely does sound way better. You can hear more details in Alex's guitar work especially. And this is actually their first album with no keyboards since Corrective Steel, and also their first album released after their long hiatus due to the deaths of Neil's wife and daughter. It also reminds me of the first time I saw the band live on this tour. One Little Victory with some great aggressive jamming in the intro comes off as sounding way better than the remix. And Ghost Rider, about the long bike rides Neil took, also comes off more powerful. Earthshine has a great riff. How It Is has Alex playing the mandola during the fast verses. And there's not really a single song on here I love. The album's way too long at 67 minutes. But really, there's only one dud and freeze, an unnecessary and unmemorable Part 4 of the original Backward Sphere trilogy during the early 80s. My number 15 is Presto from 1989. This album tones down the synths from Hold Your Fire considerably, and also tones down the instrumental pyrotechnics of the band, which are still most apparent on the opener Show Don't Tell about a courtroom scene. There's particularly active bass on that song. Now, this album has thin production, but it's definitely not as dreary as Roll the Bones. It has more good songs to go along with it, in my opinion. And Chain Lightning is a good, catchy rocker about watching spectacular sights in the night sky with a good chorus. Sundogs fire on the horizon, meteor flames come across the night. And The Past is a really good anti-suicide song. Superconductor is a super dorky but fun rocker about fake manufactured celebrities, which ironically has a cliched key change at the end. Anagram for Mongo is a very pleasant piano ballad, although I didn't realize that taking letters away from a word and making a new word like tick and talk and atomic constitutes making an anagram. Hand Over Fist seems to be about a rock, paper, scissors game. Neil is getting a little silly here. Scars is a funk rocker with an amusingly fake synth bass. And the acoustic title track, I don't really like that much. And Warpaint has that stupid boys and girls together paint the mirror black that helped make it Casey Brennan's least favorite Rush song. Or one of them. I know Presto is his least favorite album. My number 14 is the debut album from 1974. And it's interesting to contemplate what direction they might have taken had Neil never joined the band, as this is quite far removed from their usual art rock style. Apparently, when they started out, Alex and Getty, along with drummer John Rutsey, were greatly interested in playing their own version of heavy garage rock, influenced by Led Zeppelin, Cream, Black Sabbath, and such bands. And most fans like to pretend this album never existed, but this lineup of the band, heavily unoriginal as they might have been, weren't without merits. And the riffs are still pretty good. It's not like Lifeson suddenly gained this magical power to craft them after this album. And the songs also really benefit from a high amount of energy, with completely unpretentious, often fun, youthful lyrics about love, drinking, rocking out, and all that stuff. And the two best songs are definitely the bookend tracks, or Finding My Way with the great fade in, and ooh yeah, finding my way! And the bludgeoning 9 to 5 anthem Working Man has a powerful lumbering riff and an awesome mental jam, which functions as a sort of soloing duel between Getty and Alex. It was the most enduring live staple from this album, and actually their final show closer in 2015. And the slow blues of Here Again, kind of boring. Before and After has an awesome Alex intro that seems like a foreshadowing of lighter Crescent Steel, but it becomes forgettable once it becomes a rocker. And In the Mood's a really fun barroom rock song with the "Hey baby, it's 7:45. I feel I'm in the mood. Chorus. And we're almost getting into 3.5 star territory here. This could be on that level on the right kind of day. We're back to the Middle Age period with my number 13, Test for Echo from 1996. Now, this is often considered their worst album, which I don't understand. Yeah, the lyrics aren't very good, but the heaviness feels more convincing and natural to me than counterparts, with Alex fully taking over the sound. And it starts off great with the first 3 songs, and the title track is a great balance between slower and energetic that makes the raving nonsense lyrics sound like fun, like tough talking hood boys, and Pro Team logo knockoffs. And Driven is an awesome rocker that matches its title and evokes skidding down the road of black ice with an acoustic. It's my turn to drive. It's my turn to drive. And Half the World's another upbeat, catchy tune with another Mandola appearance. And despite the really dumb lyrics about the internet, like net boy, net girl, send your impulse around the world, and Virtuality has a really kick-ass riff. Then Resist, a very nice piano ballad that worked effectively as an acoustic number in live shows. And the other songs aren't particularly great, but the only real dud is Dog Years, one of my least favorite Rush songs. It's got a lame punk riff and awkward melody and lyrics that take the title in the most literal way possible. Now for some controversy with my number 12 pick, A Farewell to Kings from 1977. And this is what my apartment might look like after mad Rush fans blow it up. Yeah, it does have the Yes style 11-minute epic Xanadu about a mad immortal man stuck in a cave, with an interesting 5-minute build-up of prime Rush jamming. Yeah, there's incorporation of more synths and a whole bunch of different percussion. Yeah, it does have one of their biggest radio staples and Closer to the Heart, with a great guitar solo, one of the best Alex ever played. But the rest of the album has always disappointed me, although I don't dislike the other songs as much as I used to. It's like I'm more amused by the effect of Cygnus X1 with its boneheaded stop-start riffs, like dun 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 dun, and stupid robotic intro and Getty screeching while he's getting sucked into a black hole, but it's nowhere near a great song. And Madrigal is probably the most totally unmemorable song they ever wrote. And Cinderella Man is a rocker with an awkward melody and lyrics written by Geddy Lee. And a title track is a just decent anthemic song with a classical guitar intro. And good album, but I can't really understand its high reputation at all. Now go kill me. My number 11 is Snakes and Arrows from 2007. Now, fans might be pissed off at me for ranking this higher than A Farewell to Kings, since it could be accused of being called plain modern rock, but I like it. It fixes the production problems of Vapor Trails, and the opener Far Cry is like a better version of One Little Victory. And the chorus melody of One day I feel I'm on top of the world and the rest is falling in on me is one of their best latter-day choruses. And there's more acoustic guitar here, and 3 instrumentals works in the album's favor. And Main Monkey Business is a really good blend of hypnotic and aggressive with some mellotron in the background. Hope's a pretty good acoustic piece reminiscent of Steve Howe. And Malignant Narcissism kind of feels like a little brother to YYZ with its bass and drum breaks. The Way the Wind Blows has a neat bluesy intro. Armor and Sword and Good News First had neat riffs, with the latter having an interesting wind tunnel effect in the vocals on the verses. And the album's a bit too long at 62 minutes, and the vocal melodies sound too similar at times. But if I concentrate on what Alex is doing, I'm pretty happy. And it's actually the first album on this list that has no songs I dislike, so I'm putting it as the best at the bottom half. My number 10 is the second album, Fly By Night, from 1975. If I was ranking Rush album covers, this would probably be my favorite, with a badass Snowy Owl. It's also the first album with Neil Peart, and its impact is immediately felt in the drumming and Ayn Rand-inspired lyrics on Anthem. It's also got an awesome riff, and Wonders in the World! Wonders in the World! Screeching from Getty. Best I Can and Beneath, Between, Behind are more fun riff rockers, and By Toward the Snow Dog is their first prog rock style song, influenced by the Gates of Delirium from Yes. The main section is quite fun with the Tobes of Hades lit by a flickering torchlight. As is the battle section with the growling noises, but the slower section with ambient guitar work, it gets a bit boring. Then we have the title track, another one of their classic rock radio staples with a great riff and catchy chorus. Fly by night away from here, change my life again. And then the last three songs are just okay. Making Memories is a nostalgic acoustic driven song with lyrics by Alex. And Rivendell's a silly stop start acoustic ballad with Tolkien lyrics inspired by The Hobbit. And In the End is a Zeppelinish rocker I don't care for that much. So it adds up to a pretty good album, right in the middle of the pack. My number 9 is their final album, Clockwork Angels from 2012. And this is another Alex Lifeson special with some of his best guitar work in a long time. It suffers a bit from the same main flaw as Snakes and Arrows in that I wish the vocal melodies were a bit better matched to playing. It's still a very consistent set of songs. It's actually their only start to finish concept album, but hell if I know what the dystopian future storyline is here. All I know is that it involves some character called the Watchmaker introduced in the eerie song BUTB, which along with the opening caravan where the main character can't stop thinking big was when I saw them do live in 2010, 2 years before the album came out. And the title track's another standout. I feel like I'm listening to a continuation of Hemispheres with the chords and atmosphere. Maybe because the angel imagery also reminds me of the Greek mythology from that song. A few other songs feature orchestration and records of another great chorus. All I know is that sometimes you have to be wary of a miracle too good to be true. And Seven Cities of Gold has cool slap bass work. And my brain always hears the intense headlong flight is what Bastille Day from 27 years earlier might sound like if it were done by Tool. Also, The Garden seems like one of the saddest sounding Rush songs ever, with the lines about the hours ticking away and a future disappearing into memory after Neil's passing away from brain cancer in 2020. And while we're still down in the dumps from that, here's my number 8, Grace Under Pressure from 1984. Now, this is a very cold synth heavy album that also incorporates electronic drums, with Alex more relegated to police style coloring. And the opening song about nuclear war, Distant Early Warning, has great tension in the chorus. The world weighs on my shoulders, but what am I to do? Da 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 da. And a simple but effective da 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 synth breaks. And you've also got After Image with its cheery subject matter about a friend of the band dying in a car accident. And then there's Red Sector A being about Holocaust survivors. And there's also The Enemy Within, that's part 1 of the Backwards Fear trilogy that started with Witch Hunt and a Weapon from the 2 previous albums. Although, of course, the fact that Red Sector A is probably the most danceable song they ever did and has this silly "skeletons they shuffle away" line prevents it from being too depressing. And the Body Electric also helps the album from getting too dark with the extremely dorky 100101 SOS binary code chorus, although it should probably be a 5-minute song instead of a 3-minute one. While Kid Gloves is another fun song, and 5/4 time that might be about a fight between Getty and Alex about the band's direction. And based on these 6 songs, this would be a strong 4-star album for me that would probably move up at least a couple spots on my list. But the last 2 songs, I'm not that into. Red Lenses is an awkward, funky song that overuses the word red, and Between the Wheels is a boring and lumbering 2-chord synth riff that shows Getty getting more into keyboards could be a problem. As it is, still very close to a 4. My number 7 is Hemispheres from 1978. This is probably another controversial pick since a lot of fans have this one in their top 3, and it's likely the most technically complex album they ever did. There's an 18-minute side-long title track that's a direct sequel to Cygnus X1. It focuses lyrically on the dichotomy between the heart and mind. It finds our main character going through a black hole to talk to the ancient Greeks, and it starts off with the iconic F-sharp whatever life sync chord, as John Petrucci of Dream Theater called it. Does that sound dorky? It sure is. It's a solid epic, but I feel like it chases its tail a bit as it goes on, and there are a couple spots that are probably among the rare times Getty's voice grates on me. The universe divided, the heart and mind collided. Although the Bringer of Balance section is really creepy and awesome. It goes like, as a disembodied spirit, I am dead, but yet unborn. Meanwhile, on side 2, there's the more traditional riff rocker circumstances, as a chorus partly sung in French and a majestic synth metal section. And a silly fable of trees has oak and maple trees arguing with each other, with a great classical guitar intro verse and a woodblocky percussion part in the middle that was later ripped off on Mission from Hold Your Fire. And it all closes with La Villa Strangiato, a 14-part instrumental based on a dream Alex had, which features subtitles like "A Lurks in Wonderland" and "Never Turn Your Back on a Monster," and incorporates the assembly line music for 1930s Warner Brothers cartoons that goes da 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 da. Has a number of other great riffs like dun 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 dun. The slower section gets a bit boring. But other than that, and a couple minor complaints about the title track. I don't really have any song-specific complaints about this album, but I think it's overall an album that's more for the musician brain to be studied and challenged than the heart. I don't find as much emotional resonance in it as other albums. Like my contrarian number 6 Dark Horse pick, Corrective Steel from 1975. This is apparently Geddy Lee's least favorite album, and the tour was nicknamed the Down the Tubes tour since the album was commercially unsuccessful, but I personally really dig it. Bastille Day is the opening rocker about the French Revolution that most agree is the highlight of the album. Oh, we're marching to Bastille Day. The guillotine will claim the bloody prize. Well, I think I'm going bald is a guilty pleasure of mine. A barroom rock song reminiscent of In the Mood from the debut. And even when I am gray, I'll still be gray my way. Lakeside Park's a warm, nostalgic rocker about a Canadian area near where Neil grew up, with a great soft chorus, and everyone would gather on the 24th of May bridge. And rounding out side 1, I'm going to be insane and call the 12-minute The Necromancer one of my favorite Rush songs. The low-voiced spoken narration at the beginning is hilarious. As gray traces of dawn emerge from the forest shadow, the 3 travelers of Willowdale, blah, blah, blah. There's something about the murky, bass-heavy production quality, complete with neat backwards guitar effects, where I can imagine the band themselves playing in someone's basement. And the brooding in the tower section is one of the best attempts at the whole stop-start thing I like to do in the early days. I love the riffs during the jam parts, too, and the ending section is like the riff to Baba O'Reilly from The Who, reimagined as a more celebratory folk song, or Bytor from Bytor the Snow Dog slays his foe. And a 20-minute epic on side 2, The Fountain of Lambeth, has its moments too. The opening acoustic section is really pretty, and there's a really entertaining boneheaded power chord riff. Down, 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 and there's also a hilarious percussion section called Didax and Narpits, which is an anagram of addicts and parents, that ends with a hilarious "Listen!" Anyway, the No One at the Bridge section has a really moody arpeggiated guitar line. The Bacchus Plateau section has another gloriously dorky chorus. Draw another goblet from the cask of 43. And then the boneheaded riff appears again. Da 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 da. And then the pretty acoustic opening gets reprised again, and we're done. Yeah, this is basically an instance of a 20-minute epic that has 6 separate songs not really edited together cohesively, much like my videos, but I like the patchy, awkward charm of this album a lot. My number 5 is Power Windows from 1985. I hope the 40th anniversary remaster of this in 2025 features this alternate cover. This is another kind of contrarian choice that actually used to be my number two when I first heard it, but I do acknowledge the keyboards are probably more dated sounding and ridiculous than any of their other albums, so I can't justify ranking it quite that high, especially when the adult pop style melodies that would dominate the next few albums are starting to creep in, like on the song Manhattan Project that retells the atomic bomb situation in World War II. But I find this so much fun to listen to since they really go all out with playing their parts with verve, which makes the production work in my opinion. It almost channels the inner 10-year-old kid in me that was obsessed with the Neverending Story movie that came out a year before this album. I can definitely imagine Neil riding Falcor, the luck dragon, and scaring the bullies away. And Getty's bass playing on here is arguably my favorite ever over a whole album. And Alex's guitar has a much stronger presence than the other three albums in the 82 to 87 period, especially on the opening to Big Money with the bombastic B chord that drives the whole song. And Marathon is one of my favorite Rush songs ever with the galloping ding 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 bass line and simulating the climb uphill. The anthemic chorus is one of their greatest. It goes like from first to last, the peak is never past. There's something always fires a light that gets in your eyes. I can see people dismissing that as cheesy though. And the drumming's also at a high point with mystic rhythms evoking an African feel to go along with the creepy guitar and keyboard lines. Then the pounding's also awesome in the We Keep Looking Through the Eyeglass and Reverse chorus on Territories. So I like the 80s King Crimson style Eastern guitar line on that too. And Middletown Dreams evokes the whole suburban atmosphere almost as well as subdivisions. And I like the synth part during the middle-aged Madonna calls her neighbor on the phone bridge part. It goes like on grand designs with its A to B at different degrees. And Motion Detector are lesser but still good tracks. And really solid album.
My number 4 is 2112 from 1976. As I said earlier, this was the first Rush album I ever heard, and it starts off with a 20-minute title suite where some guy discovers a guitar in the year 2112, and the priests of the temples of Syrinx that have taken all entertainment away from society dismiss his discovery as nothing new. This song is a prime example of Getty's screeching out vocal routine. We are the priests of the temples of Syrinx, which took getting used to. But ultimately, the first 6:45 of this epic could probably count as my favorite song in Rush history, since the band most often played those two sections together live. As John McFerrin pointed out, it's like the band discovered a bottomless well of cool riffs in the overture part, and you have the third section where, as Cole Bosman put it, it sounds like Alex is tuning his guitar while sitting at a water fountain, which I guess is the intended effect. I love the presentation section with Neil's drum fills after the dum 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 da 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 da, and the priest screams of "Don't annoy us further!" Oh yeah, and the narrator decides to kill himself at the end after being rejected. Based on how 2020 went, I don't have a particularly optimistic outlook on how 2112 will go, whatever life I'm living then. And surely I'm not going to make it to 123 years old, right? 133. And then we get to the second side, which almost feels like an EP of shorter songs. The Passage to Bangkok is a cool riff rocker about traveling that has possibly the first instance of the generic Asian riff in rock music. And The Twilight Zone is a tribute to the show of the same name that's probably my least favorite on the album because of the overly cartoonish lyrics and whispering in one of the choruses. Also, the giant boy referenced here was actually a girl in the original show, but I guess girl in Brand New World was just as cliche to rhyme as boy in Brand New Toy, if not worse. Then you've got Lessons, another decent song with Alex pen lyrics in the vein of Making Memories, and Tears, which is probably one of the most underrated Rush songs ever. I think it's one of the most beautiful vocal performances by Getty. And there's also an effective mellotron presence in the chorus. And Something for Nothing is another high energy rocker with philosophical lyrics to close things out. Oh, you can't have something for nothing. You can have freedom for free. Yep, sounds like Rush. My number 3 is Signals from 1982. In addition to completely toning his vocals down by this point, and Geddy's keyboards became the center of the band's sound, providing a lot of the instrumental hooks, while Alex's guitar is used more for coloring, and the rhythms have an almost robotic reggae feel, since I guess Neil was obsessed with the Police and Stuart Copeland strumming at this time. And it starts off really well with the anthem for the bullied high school outcasts and subdivisions, with one of the most memorable synth riffs of the 80s I'm not going to try and imitate here. And the analog kit is almost as great, with another one of Alex's most kick-ass fast riffs like the Spirit of Radio. And there's the heavenly synth choir chorus, "You move me, you move me." And Digital Man has the most reggae influence on here with the chorus, "Love to spend the night in Zion." And some of Geddy's most complicated bass lines, and there's a neat robotic breakdown at the end. And the weapon is kind of a dancier style, like a Red Sector A from the following album with a futuristic synth sounds. Losing It has a lyrical focus on the fading away of one's glory years, with guest violin playing from Ben Mink, who would later play on Geddy's solo album, My Favorite Headache. And that effectively adds to the somber atmosphere of the song. And Countdown is another gloriously dorky song about watching a space shuttle launch, with a bunch of samples that actually add to the song, and a structure and build up kind of like Natural Science from Permanent Waves. A pretty dorky song in itself. New Wave is a poppier one that was literally written as a filler track, since they needed a song around 3.5 minutes to finish side 2 out, and it's really solid. Probably the catchiest overall song in the album, with a neat robotic verse. He's a rebel and a runner, he's a signal turning green. My least favorite song on here is probably Chemistry, since the keyboard riff is a rip-off of the guitar line from The Twilight Zone of 2112, which I just talked about. But it's still got cool Science Lab lyrics written by all 3 members. Actually, the Science Lab lyrics not that cool, but for Rush, they're fun. Also dorky, in the liner notes, they labeled themselves with baseball positions. Geddy Lee is a pitcher. Alex Lifeson played first base. Neil Peart played third base. And Terry Brown, the producer, played left field. My number 2 is Permanent Waves from 1980. I feel like a sellout for putting the most obviously radio-friendly and popular Rush albums at the top of my list, but it can't be any other way. Admittedly, I'm probably more sick of the Spirit of Radio than their other hits, but that doesn't make it any less classic. And the super fast opening riff is a knockout, the tempo changes are thrilling, the neat synth in the chorus effectively conveys invisible airwaves crackling with life, and the reggae section near the end is a clever parody of the Sounds of Silence from Simon and Garfunkel. It echoes with the sound of salesmen. And Free Will has another insanely catchy opening riff that doubles as the verse melody. Dum 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 dum. Another one of the most celebrated choruses. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And an astonishing faster middle jam part with a great bass riff. And Entre Nous is another beautifully uplifting pop song, and Natural Science is another one of their most celebrated epics, with lyrics that deal with concern for the environment and humanity, and a whole bunch of great riffs that flow together perfectly. I know I call Rush dorky a lot, but I mean that in the most complimentary and endearingly fun way for their best albums. In the hyperspace section with wind tunnel vocal effects, a quantum leap forward in time and in space, the universe set to expand. That's a prime example of this. And this album is right on the border between 4 and 4.5 stars for me, only brought down a little by Jacob's Ladder, sounding a bit too much like a Hemispheres outtake. It's especially in the Clouds Are Parted section, sounding like the Bringer of Balance from the title track of that album. But does do a good job of simulating a thunderstorm from afar. And Different Strings is a really pretty but kind of ordinary piano ballad. And it's still a great album, and they're really hitting their stride here. Which leads to my number 1 album, the most cliched choice out there, Moving Pictures from 1981. Oh man, the first side of this album is one of the greatest album sides I've ever heard. I wish I knew anything about how to describe the intricacies of drumming, since this album's biggest hit, Tom Sawyer, might be the pinnacle of Neil's work. The song itself sets up this album's perfect balance between complexity and pop catchiness. And the chorus of, "Oh, what you say about his company is what you say about society." That's awesome. As are the spacey synth breaks. And Red Barchetta has awesome use of guitar harmonics from Alex in the intro. And ding, 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 ding. And the faster middle section becomes what I consider to be one of the ultimate driving songs of all time, perfectly conveying driving down a country road and the wind in my hair, shifting and drifting. And the main character apparently takes part in a race with a gleaming alloy air car. As Cole Bosman put it, "Why do air cars need to use a bridge?" Meanwhile, the instrumental YYZ, the code for Toronto's airport, is another one that could fall into the ultimate driving song category once it goes into the main part of the song off the da 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 intro riff. And holy crap, Getty is on fire on that one. Limelight's another perfectly constructed pop song about Neil's alienation with his celebrity status, and has another classic riff. Da 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 da. And side 2 can't hope to compete with these songs, but the Camera Eye as the final over 10-minute song the band would ever do is really good, with a lyrical concept contrasting the city streets of New York and London, and another great dramatic riff that's a blast to play along with on keyboards and guitar. And then we have Witch Hunt, part 3 of the Backwards Fear trilogy, and one of the most haunting and ominous songs they ever did, conveying an angry mob of villagers or something like that. And finally, they close it out as Vital Signs, which foreshadows the robotic reggae style of Signals, with a neat synth loop / complicated bass line. And the most fun to sing along with dorky lyrics on the album. So tired might become a shapeshifter. Everybody needs a mood lifter. Everybody needs reverse polarity. Dun, 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 dun. And this is right on the border of 4.5 and 5 stars. And what the hell? I'm going to be nice and give it 5. So that's my ranking of Rush's catalog. Hit like and subscribe. And now I'll leave you with a clip from May 2013 where my friend Casey Brennan told me about his experience with taking my recorder to a Rush concert he went to that month. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.
Yeah, I bet you're going to hear the staff guy. He came to me the first time. He's like 20 years old. He's like, "I'm sorry, you're not allowed to record audio here." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then I just quickly took it and put it near my jacket so he couldn't see it. I kept it recording. Then he came back like 10 minutes later, and he's like, "I see your recorder there. You're recording again. It's the second time I'm back here." And he's like, "Don't make it a third time."
Wow.
Yeah, he just looked at me and like pointed at it like he wanted to take it. I'm like, "Oh shit." It's like, "Don't make me come back a third time." That's what he said.
Yeah, there's some places I wish my recorder was more unobtrusive and hidden.
Yeah. It would be awesome if it didn't have like that red.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Oh man, you could. No one would have any idea. I bet by 2020 it will be like that. No one will have any idea. There'll be no red button. It would be. Who knows?
Yeah, set 1. Subdivisions, The Big Money, Force 10, Grand Designs, Limelight, Territories, Analog Kid, Bravado, Where's My Thing, Far Cry.
5. Thank you, boss.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you which songs I got.
The first 5, because you said Limelight.
Right, that we came in during Subdivisions, so we got half of that, and then we got, what was the next ones?
Big Money, Force 10, Grand Designs, and Limelight.
So we got 3 total ones, and then 2 halves.
Yeah. Set 2,
bunch of Clockwork Angels.
With Clockwork Angels String Ensemble, Caravan, Clockwork Angels, The Anarchists, Carnies, The Wreckers, Headlong Flight, Halo Effect, Seven Cities of Gold, Garden, Manhattan Project, Drum Solo, The Percussor. They always have to come up with a different name for its drum solo every live album.
Oh man. You know, it was great. They played 2 drum solos actually during the night, technically.
Yeah, that's what it says. And Where's My Thing, Drum Solo 1.
Yeah, that was really cool. Oh man. What was that, like 9 Clockwork Angel songs?
I think so.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Red Sector A, YYZ, Spirit of Radio, Tom Sawyer, 2112 Overture, Temples, and Grand Finale.
Yeah, YYZ was really, really good. I kind of wish I recorded that one instead of... You have to help me out. I don't know what song this is that I made a video of. It came out really good, but it's a 6.5-minute song.